And what other LLMs in the space, both open source and vendor based, are you most excited about? Would you like to see people play around with more?
Oh yeah, so that's pretty easy. I think hopefully everybody's kind of got this sense now. So 7B, so you got different levels, right? So 7B, Mistral 7B is the best power to weight ratio,
Mm,
full stop. Um, so gee, hopefully they certainly strongly hinted they're going to be releasing more models. So that would be great. Um, so then 13B, Quen is the clear leader there. There's the much underappreciated 20B model intern LM.
hmm
Um, then the 33, 34B level is, a bit empty, sadly. And I think it's sad because that's the kind of like that's the sweet spot for normal people. Um,
In what sense?
it's you can fine tune a 34B model on moderately priced hardware,
Hmm
and you can run it on cheap hardware. Like a 70B model, you can't fine tune using anything kind of off the shelf, even with an 8 by 80 gig server. So you're talking about like multiple gold plated servers and InfiniBand interconnected. You're talking like very, very expensive shit.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, 34B, you can do it on a single server for fine tuning. With 4-bit discretization, really importantly, you can run inference on a single 24 gig card. So that's a great, great size. And unfortunately, Meta didn't release the Llama 2 model of that size. They just released a code Llama fine tune. Um, but now we do now have the E, as in YI
Yeah.
34B model, which is a champ. Problem with that champ is it's not available for commercial use without asking for a license.
hmm
And I haven't heard of anybody who's asked for a license and got one yet. Like often with these ask us for a license things, they're kind of like black holes. So I don't know how that's meant to work. Um, but yeah, if you're not worried about that, the license issue, that's just a exceptionally good model. Um, and then of course you've got 70B. So then at 70B, you're basically Llama 2. uh, I've only mentioned base models. All of these, of course, have instruction fine-tuned variants. Um, so Technium has his Hermes, Naus Hermes, whatever fine-tune. Um, Basically, the open source world has all these fantastic instruction fine-tuning data sets, and something like Hermes or Capybara or whatever combine a whole bunch of them together and just say like, oh, let's slap them all together and fine-tune it on the whole lot. That works great. Um, and then going to another level still, um, beyond just instruction fine-tuning, you can also add something like RLHF. And I say something like because nowadays we tend to be using DPO rather than traditional RLHF, which is much faster and easier, so
hmm
forth. So Hugging Face has this Zephyr model, which is a 7B. Intel has this neural chat model. So they're doing the whole thing. They start with a high quality base, then they use a high quality instruction data set, and then they do DPO. And um, DPO, I think like the Intel's neural chat one, like it couldn't be easier now. They're literally just, I think, saying like, oh, let's ask the same question of a shit model and of a good model. And then the preferences would always assume that the good model is better than the shit model,
mm
So the whole thing's becoming nice and smooth and easy to take a base model and turn it into a high quality instruction tuned RLHF, usable endpoint now.
Fantastic. And so that sounds amazing, but
Yeah, it's
there's a
great.
big there's a big but though, right? For any punter out there to go and actually start playing around with these things. I mean, one of the things about vendor APIs is you can go and use them. A lot of the infrastructure and endpoints are set up and that type of stuff. Whereas playing around with these types of things and seeing how much value they can deliver for you, you've got to get access to GPUs and set up endpoints and all of these types.
Well,
How
kinda,
tough is that these days?
you know, there's companies like Together Compute who just announced their $100 million fundraising today, and they provide hosted endpoints. There's a lot of companies now that provide hosted endpoints of these models. Or you can just use like Hugging Face bases. And like I said, for inference, a single 24 gig GPU
Mm-hmm.
lets you run nearly any of these, anything but the 70Bs. And you can download Cobalt or Ooga Booga or like any one of these like off the shelf, ready to go GUIs and run it.
Yep.
And some of them will even give you an OpenAI compatible REST endpoint that you can ping. So it's not, you know, it's not rocket science. It'll run on Windows or Linux, not Mac, of course, because they, gave up on NVIDIA years ago, sadly. Um, and as of in the last 24 hours, Justine Tunney has released this Cosmopolitan packaged LLM tool where you can literally distribute a single executable file that will run an LLM server on
Super cool.
any device you can think of. It. I can't remember what it's called now, but I'll look it up.